morning everyone, participants and senior officials from UIDAI and all my colleagues who are representing different departments. So we will be, I would want to tell what we are doing and what we are envisaging in the future for Aadhaar project to be, and how better we will be using Aadhaar in the future. And see, there are a lot of applications which already are matured enough and have started using Aadhaar, but there are certain applications which still needs certain changes. And since NIC is one of the core participants here, they have been actively support of integration of Aadhaar at different elements. And I'll also be quickly touching on what Aadhaar vault usage we have started and what is the conceptualization of unified registry in terms of use of Aadhaar in a governance fashion. So, Kerala State IT Mission is the AUA and the KUA agency for the UIDAI, and all the department agencies have been using Aadhaar for certain authentication purposes. At present, about 12 departments are using Aadhaar authentication services through CARES ITM. So, as discussed, Section 7 notification, we have been fairly very low, and only these services, which are food and civil supplies, ration, finance department, social security, pensions, and SC/SC scholarships, are the only one which have been notified till now, which is itself creating a slight kind of delay. But at the end of the day, we do understand that these were the core applications which dealt with majority of the population. And it is only because of these notifications that we are able to use Aadhaar in itself as a mechanism to check and verify the identity of the individual. So, and I'll also be discussing eventually that the unified registry that Kerala government is envisaging is going to use Aadhaar itself as the single-use the identification factor for every service. Now, civil supplies database, which is the ration database, have to be mapped using the Aadhaar numbers through a reference number which will be generated through an Aadhaar vault, and it will be eventually be linked together so that other databases can also talk to each other. Finance department, social security pension, so it is managed by the Information Kerala Mission, which is part of the local self-government department. So all these beneficiaries are selected through the panchayats, and they give up the list and they maintain and they create the database, and that has also been notified under Section 7, SC/SC scholarship as well. So this is, sir, for the officials of the other department, that we are under process of notifying all these services as well, considering agriculture, dairy development, fisheries, social justice, health, power, revenue, and all of these applications have very high impact. And once a notification happens, that is where all the government departments will start using and start realizing the practicality of Aadhaar. Because at this point of time, probably the departments do not know that what is the benefit. Ultimately, it's just to become an beneficiary identification mechanism, but it's not so. You can take the civil supplies database as an example, where people have been able to remove the duplication, have to clean up their data, and crores of rupees have been saved, because you were able to remove the errors in the databases. And whenever it is called for using the CMDRF, integration of Section 7 notification will help the state government to properly identify the beneficiaries who are supposed to be getting. Now, see, and specifically for the disaster, because Kerala floods is something which have been very aggressively affected in different years. 2018 we had, 2019 we had, and we are foreseeing that there might be certain instances of floods. Considering the entire development and the climate changes, there might be certain more instances. So we have to be very ready in terms of databases and the notification exercises, so that we don't have to run around and find out beneficiaries, and there should not be any duplication mechanism. Another example which I want to give up is the agriculture and health. So e-health program is also something which is a very benchmark level of program for the government of Kerala, where the entire database of health department and the individuals will be linked through a simple enterprise solution. And it is not just a health database. It deals with your interaction with the primary health centers, with the community health centers, the follow-up mechanism, the queue management, everything is linked with the e-health mechanism. Now, imagine if we are able to properly utilize the Aadhaar services for beneficiaries identification, the entire e-health database will also be cleansed, will also be streamlined. And that is what you're forcing. And e-health is a project, I think, which in the coming years is going to be a major turnaround for the entire health infrastructure for our state, because it will completely digitize our health records, our health interaction with the government facilities and as well as the private facilities. Social Justice Department, 32 schemes are already under process, and mostly it will be notified in the coming month or so, because social justice is a very high impact activity, considering the aspect of the minority benefits that has to be provided by the state. And interlinking with Aadhaar will obviously help us in better identification, and eventually once this is done, it will also help in further integration at the later stage. So this is the recent Section 4 notification which have been done, already done and already followed up. Revenue is one thing which we have recently done, and it is called Unique Thunder Pair. So the idea is that the entire transactions which are happening in terms of lands will be identified through Aadhaar, and it has been recently notified, and we have also integrated the Aadhaar vault with this. So the department has also started to use the reference IDs which have been created by the revenue department. Obviously, land is a very complicated subject, and it is difficult to take a huge step in one direction at one time itself. So we don't expect that the land registration, the land record management, and the transaction and the registration department will be interlinked immediately. But it's a huge start if we think about it, that if Snehal Kumar Singh is selling a property, I will be able to identify myself, and the system will be able to knowing that. And NIC is the one who has developed this software, and they have onboarded it directly from the inception stage itself. They have onboarded on the Aadhaar vault, which is helping the department to build the entire system around it. And as CS sir has also mentioned, that we are also doing a digital survey. Ultimately, when digital survey happens and the land record digitization is also carried out at the same time, I think Aadhaar will become the unifying factor and for identifying which person is owner of this land. And considering the land being a very complicated subject, because there are a lot of disputes, there are a lot of boundary issues and a lot of legal disputes also, I think state governments are mostly, whenever there is a judicial element involved, we are participants and defendant and prosecutor, defendant in majority of the cases. And we do not have the right information at the right point of time. So we are dependent on physical records by village offices, by the taluk offices. They have to monitor that, okay, Snehal Kumar Singh is owner of this land of survey number 2/2. And there's a very much lack of digital systems which can be verified. Even though there are digital records. So there is a digital survey map also. But I have not been able to link it properly with Snehal Kumar Singh being the owner of survey number 2/2. And I think that is where Aadhaar will come very handy, where we will be able to interlink together these two different record database systems and ultimately be in a very clear position to defend these cases whenever they come to at any level of judicial engagement. And a lot of time and a lot of effort is wasted in finding out records. Whenever we are going about digitization of the land record and digitization of the processes, I think we skip this major channel of unification of different records. And all the officials who are coming from different departments, I would want to point out that probably we are very casual in terms of what Aadhaar is, because we have always found out that Aadhaar, like as a citizen, what is my use of Aadhaar? It's just my interlinking, and government has been asking to link it with this bank account and my PAN card details. But in terms of governance, it is a revolutionary change, which all of you will understand that without Aadhaar, I don't think we can move to the next stage of governance, where we can think about least amount of citizen effort, least amount of government interaction, and digitization of the efforts. Whenever we're talking about any kind of digitization, we need a common thread, and Aadhaar is the common thread, which I think Indian government is going to be drastically proud of, and it's already proud of. And in the future, I think among the global level, we will be the leaders in terms of governance using digital systems. and all the departments, I'm sure every one of you are nodal departments of different agencies. You guys must be dealing with this problem where your HODs and your citizens are telling us ki please make the system digital, and you have been developing these systems without any oversight. And we have been discussing this in the government of Kerala level also, that all the systems have been designed separately in silos. And it is now the time where we start thinking in terms of integration, and that is why this notification of Section 4 and Section 7 become hugely crucial. So my request to all of the departments who have come here, all the nodal officers who have come here, is to please understand the gravity of situation here, that as soon as possible, once you notify these Section 4 and Section services, you will come under the ambit of the digital governance of the state. So you will not just remain revenue department, you will not just remain agriculture department, you will come in the overall functioning of the digital governance of the state and for the people. So please, whenever you go back, please inform your concerned officials who are going to do the notification that it is very urgent, and as soon as possible, once you start doing it, your systems will improve. So in the future, we are expecting all these departments also to be onboarded under Section 4, General Education. They've already, I think they have done that, and their system is also ready. Revenue e-District. E-District is a system which is being used by all the officials at different levels for the Revenue Department. Income certificate, possession certificate, caste certificate are issued through e-Districts. Once that is also notified, our headache will reduce drastically. Then Public Works Department, PSC has already started this process at different levels, and KSEB. So we have around 1.2 crore authentication transactions conducted per month, and authentication facilities provided through Akshaya CSCs, and so for the sum of scheme registration and the live certification processes. One thing which I want to point out is that in Kerala, we have the Akshaya centers as well as the CSC centers. So Akshaya centers were originally the citizen facilitation centers, and then now actually all the Akshaya centers are also CSC centers. But there's a lot of high trust between the citizens and the Akshaya centers, and I think that is where the story of Kerala is something different from the other states probably, that the digital services that we are making, we don't have that hindrance that people will not understand. Because the biggest problem of digital services is that people do not have that acceptance. People do not want to run around, sit on a computer for 20, 30 values they are entering. That problem we don't generally face. And the reason why that is there is because the Akshaya centers, which were incepted in 2008, 2009 and now gradually have matured, they have a lot of trust at the local level. So every panchayat, every municipality, every panchayat might have 3 to 4 Akshaya centers, and they have a one-to-one interaction. So whenever we want to launch a new scheme, we don't have to worry that people will not be able to participate. People will be able to go to an Akshaya centers. We will just provide the training to the Akshaya center officials and to the CSC centers, and they will do the process. Obviously at some commission rate of maybe 5 rupees, 10 rupees or whatever it is to be decided. But the strength of Kerala in terms of digital governance is this, that we do not worry about our system not being, the take-up would never be low. Because we trust that Akshaya centers people will anyways be visiting. So Akshaya centers and CSC centers are already the Aadhaar agency for making the updates and issuing new Aadhaar. They already know this thing. They generally go there. And one additional service we can directly onboard through the Akshaya centers and CSC centers. So this is, I don't think that we need to worry about this thing. Everybody know that Aadhaar, it's used for identification of the beneficiaries, and the registration of the beneficiary is made very easy. And civil supplies database is something which I think I am really impressed in the sense of this numbers and the scale that they deal with. So the transactions are in lakhs, and it happens very fluently with nearly no issues at different stages. So, this is something which probably we can just quickly run through, that the registration, identification, disbursement entitlements. In my initial word, I was also talking about this social security pensions, that we did a deduplication exercise. And we did this mustering exercise through the Akshaya centers, and they were given these Aadhaar kits to verify and to go there to the citizen. If it's a senior citizen, they can go there to their homes and verify that. And we were able to remove 10 lakh different duplicate entries. And this exercise led to saving of around crores of rupees for the finance department. And now we don't have to worry about it because the system is already clean. Now, since we have integrated with the Aadhaar, the new entries will never be duplicated. So this is something which a very practical application through our citizen interaction and through our Akshay centers we were able to achieve. And this was a legacy data which we had to clean, not the new data. So one effort, probably it took around 3 to 4 months to complete the entire mustering exercise, and we were able to cleanse the entire legacy data of the social security pension, which is a huge money, the money that is going out of the state exchequer. So now I want to quickly run through what Aadhaar Vault and what Unified Registry we are planning to implement, what we have done at this point of time. So, see, Aadhaar Vault is something which probably we'll have a different discussion also, but I'll tell you the conception of Unified Registry. So, the state wanted a registry of data of citizens of various departments which are interlinked together. Now, the problem in that thing is that the databases are different. You cannot actually compare two different databases. Let us give a very simple example of Social Security pensions and the civil supplies database, the ration. These two different databases we wanted to integrate together, and we wanted us to, as a state, to see that okay, these people are availing these and these services. There are two benefits of major benefits. One is obviously the deduplication exercise we will be able to find out. The second is a positive benefit that if a citizen is eligible for certain schemes, we will be able to identify those people and we will be able to give out the services directly. Now the problem in this kind of setup is that the ownership of the data is very crucial here, because the ownership of the data remains with the department. And when we are interlinking two different databases, it's not just a copy paste. It is a very tight integration in terms of if Snehal Kumar Singh is availing ration from district Trivandrum in this so and so village, I am also availing a social security pension under senior citizen, let us presume, in the other village. So if there's an overlap, of two data, how do we rectify that issue? So these issues are something which we are trying to clean our unified registry. So the basic of unified registry is that there will be 2-3 different databases. We will be picking up certain values from different databases, merging it together and using the Aadhaar based reference numbers for that interlinking. And that is where Aadhaar Vault comes in, because Aadhaar Vault is something which will generate a unique reference ID for us, and we will be able to map every citizen according to that. Obviously, there are a lot of nuanced problems in the sense of source of truth, in terms of deduplication exercises and the availability of these unified databases. And we have a very strong legal mechanism onto when these databases can be used and when can this be probably changed, because we don't want citizen to be under any kind of stress or in any kind of concern whenever their data is being considered. Now, when the basic principle of data is this only, that we have to keep it disintegrated. Whenever we start unifying the databases, the privacy issue starts coming in. And we want to resolve it by saying that the databases, we at unified level are not changing that. The database changes will only happen at the department level. And at this point of time, we have integrated the databases of civil supplies and the social security. We have done few rounds of trials and we are able to make a decent database, and in the future more and more services will be notified and will be integrated with the unified registry. One thing as a principle that we have decided is at the state level that we will only be interlinking services and the databases which are notified under the Aadhaar Act, either Section 4 or Section 7. And the reason for that is that this keeps the data clean. And when I'm talking about data being clean, I don't want that there are two Snehal Kumar Singh availing two different schemes at two different places. And that can only be ensured if it is notified under Aadhaar, and I have given my Aadhaar for the purpose set so. So as you can see, the Social Security Scheme Benefit Management as well as other Aadhaar is already mandatory for use, and state governments have started to use it, and we are hoping that in the future more and more services will be onboarded through Aadhaar and we will be able to integrate and create a database. The Unified Registry is having a lot of practicality in terms of disasters also. For example, during floods, if we know that these 4 villages are affected, with the Unified Registry, I will be able to identify the people who are residing in those 4 villages, who are taking social security pensions, who are taking rations, so I can optimize my ration requirement for the next month, because I know that these people, the normal ration chains have stopped, the entire area is affected with flood, I need to prepare ration from some other department. So I can give that data to the civil supplies department, saying that these 4 villages, these are the people who you have, and we want to integrate it further so that they are able to optimize the ration that they are sending. There's also an optimization at the financial level, because a lot of schemes are about dealing and giving money to the citizens. The finance department is also looking for optimization, and they also need to see that how many people are actually expected to be given certain amount of money, and they will be able to optimize this budgeting exercise over the year, because usually for every state finances the burden starts coming in the month of January, February, March, because there are a lot of expenditure happening. Those problems can be rectified if we know the predicted amount of financial commitment that the state has. And that can be only be done if our databases are clean, databases are well managed, and they're talking to each other. So the social security pension databases, for example, if we see that it is not linked with the scheduled tribe department database. So scheduled tribe department officials are also giving certain monetary benefit to certain people. That has to talk to each other, and there has to be a certain kind of optimization exercise. So that is where Unified Registry, we are expecting that we will be able to help the departments of finance, department of civil supplies, department of disaster management for their analysis, for their use. And obviously the state will determine the use cases, and we are duty bound and legally bound to follow the provisions of data privacy, that we have to protect the privacy of the citizens, and there's always a trust in terms of whenever the information is being given. And we are not over interlinking data information which are individual centric. We are interlinking information which is department centric. So every department will give the information which is supposed to be linking us, and in the future we are expecting that citizens will also be part of the entire process. There will be a citizen interface for the Unified Registry, in which they will be able to see what are the schemes that they are eligible for, what are the schemes that they are availing, and in future they will also be able to put in a request for any changes for anything that is required. In Kerala, we are foreseeing that the G2C services, in terms of all the services that we are providing to the citizens, we will be interlinking it with the Unified Registry and the Aadhaar vault itself on the platform. So right now we have this page called services.kerala.gov.in that, as Chief Secretary Sir also mentioned, it's called the SaveNum. We want to build that platform as an end-to-end service delivery platform, in which a citizen can, using the single sign-on, will be able to log in, will able to get those services, and obviously the single sign-on will be Aadhaar enabled, because if they have notified the scheme under Aadhaar, then only we will use the Aadhaar values, the database of the Aadhaars for further checking up of the, the filling up of the database and the variables that are required for availing a particular service. So in future, probably in another 1 year or 2 years, I feel that Kerala G2C services will be very tight integrated with Aadhaar. A clean database will be there, where citizens have the freedom to check and see what are the services that they are eligible for, what are the schemes that they are availing, and what are the schemes that they probably can further avail. And it will lead to a complete, transparent, end-to-end solution for the government officials as well as for the citizens. So, Unique Thunderpair, we have already deployed the Aadhaar vault, 14th May that was inaugurated, and Revenue Department has been the leader in the use of Aadhaar. In fact, I was having this interaction with my colleagues of NIC that at the state level, when we were developing SaveNum, we were not quick enough, but the NIC Revenue Department were quick enough to start using Aadhaar vault, and they did it really well. And now the same thing has been, multiple rounds of interaction have happened with CDIT, NIC, Keltron, to tell them what Aadhaar vault is and how we are planning to use it. We have made it very simple so that every department can start using it. And as mentioned, the PDS and the 5 national security pensions, the labor pension, the national old age pension, disability, unmarried women, and the widow pension have already been integrated using this thing, because they are notified. So if we notify more services, we will be able to integrate more and more services in our Aadhaar vault and Unified Registry. So so we are the Kerala State IT Mission nodal agency for the government of Kerala for every kind of Aadhaar related activities. And the Aadhaar coverage is nearly 100% for the adult population in Kerala, and for this, the Aadhaar enrollment for the children is slightly lower, And that is what we are targeting in the next year, and UIDAI has been very supportive in terms of providing the necessary infrastructure for that, and we are foreseeing in coming 6 months the Aadhaar enrollment at the children level will also reach at a saturated state of 100%. So we have around 2,700 Akshaya centers, 2,650, and this tablet and fingerprint device have been distributed to all these Akshaya centers, and the student enrollment, as I was mentioned, have been with the assistance of the education department, have been already onboarded, and I'm expecting that this next level of exercise will become completed in another 6 months to be in the future. So as I was telling with the BPL database, the incentives which are paid to the BPL families for Aadhaar enrollment, that has also been integrated together. Aadhaar enrollment through Anganwadis and better enrollment camp modes through Akshaya CSCs are already being done, and I think Kerala has been fairly good in this sense of giving service delivery platform at the doorstep. We also have a scheme called Vadalpadi Sevanam, in which we are envisaging that all the services will be available at the doorstep through using volunteers at panchayat level, at municipality and corporation level. People who are bedridden, who do not want to, who are not able to come to an Akshaya center, the Akshaya centers will go to them through using volunteers, and their Aadhaar enrollment, biometric identification will be done at their homes itself. So this is it. We also provide a call center help and email help for all the departments, and we are foreseeing that in the future Kerala State IT Mission will be able to help all the departments who want to include Aadhaar as their beneficiary identification and changing the digital system at different stages. IT Mission will be able to provide you all the support which is required, and I wish all the very best, and thanks to UIDAI for arranging this workshop and giving me a platform to explain the projects, what Kerala government is doing and what Kerala State IT Mission is doing. Thank you.
Here as Director KSI TM Sri Snehal Singh IAS sir has expressed, I would like to share, he has given an overall view of the usage of Aadhaar in Government of Kerala. I take this opportunity to convey a message I received from ASK Manager Kochi, where he has told a resident from Kasaragod had visited ASK Kochi with some unresolved issue. The matter was taken up with RO Bangalore, and we were able to resolve the issue within a short span of time, for which we are thanks to the team and also the constant interaction between the ASK Kochi and our RO Bangalore, we were able to redress the grievance. So this has been published in the Kasaragod local daily edition, and also as sir was telling, we have got other platforms which can be used to address the grievances raised by the residents. Thank you very much, sir. Now, moving on to the next session. The topic is brief overview on key developments on usage of Aadhaar. Now I request Sri Manik Batra, GM, to come and address the participants.
A very good morning to all the dignitaries present from the government, and also from the agencies, departments who are either already users of Aadhaar in some capacity or are in the process of starting using Aadhaar for various services to the citizens and the residents of the state of Kerala. So this session I'll take up around 20-25 minutes, and there will be subsequent sessions as a follow-up to this. Before I jump into the usage part of it, I'll briefly take you to what exactly UID and authentication means, and how exactly we are using it, and what exactly is offline verification, because they become important from the viewpoint of the users of Aadhaar, which probably all of you are, to actually take Aadhaar to the rightful citizens and the beneficiaries for the sake of the tremendous part, the use case that Aadhaar provides. So this is the agenda for this short presentation. A brief introduction on authentication and use of the virtual ID, as I briefly mentioned. So what exactly have been what does the law say? Where exactly Aadhaar can be used as on date? The ecosystem of authentication, how the data flows and the scale that we have achieved. The offline verification. And of course, then we come to the recent initiatives that UIDAI has taken to promote usage of Aadhaar. Face authentication is one of the more powerful use cases. I'll briefly touch upon that. We'll have a technical discussion, a brief session on face authentication by the tech center also post this session. There are issues around failure rates of Aadhaar, mostly around fingerprint authentication failures. So what exactly we are doing about it, and what exactly you as agencies must be taking care of to improve the rates. And finally, some example use cases from states other than the state of Kerala. This could be an example for Kerala. Of course, Kerala has taken up a lot of initiatives, so some use cases may be overlapping, but of course, there's no harm in learning from other states. So, coming to the first part of this session. So, if you see, this is briefly what authentication means of Aadhaar. So, we have got three ways to authenticate. We call it demographic authentication, which is a yes/no. It's kind of a validation. You have a biometric authentication. So we have got all three types of biometrics now available for authentication, which is 2 iris, 10 fingerprints, and the face itself. And of course, OTP for all those remotely accessible services that you can access through mobile, or there are multiple fora like Aadhaar and also the portal. Now, on the left side of the screen, you see there are two options. Other than the three options, like the three factors, either demographic factors or biometric or the OTP, you must provide the Aadhaar, or as an alias or a substitute to Aadhaar, we call it the virtual ID. So virtual ID is a very powerful use case, or you could say a substitute for Aadhaar. We call it an alias of Aadhaar. Especially in cases where you might be a bit apprehensive of using Aadhaar. Aadhaar being a lifetime identity, it does not change. But VID can be changed every time. I mean, the minimum life that it has is only 24 hours. You can keep changing your VID. It is directly 1:1 mapped with the Aadhaar. You may never want to use Aadhaar if you can use VID and keep generating VID for your interest. If you have interest for the sake of confidentiality of Aadhaar. So you can lock the Aadhaar. You can lock your Aadhaar. If you go to UIDAI portal, you have this feature of locking the Aadhaar. So nobody can actually use your Aadhaar, even if it is revealed. Of course, you can avail all the facilities linked to Aadhaar just by using your VID, which can always be regenerated after every 24 hours. So that is the beauty of VID. So just before I go here, so there is one yes/no authentication, we call it the validation. So you provide, along with your Aadhaar and VID, you provide your demographic, biometric or OTP to validate if the person providing Aadhaar is actually the person who actually holds it. Okay, so that's a validation yes/no. The other aspect, the other type of authentication, we call it eKYC, electronic KYC, electronic know your customer. So you might have seen for various services, you need to prove your credentials, like customer due diligence has to happen. Especially, I see a lot of people from banks present here. So customer due diligence is a requirement of RBI for various purposes, for opening any kind of account-based relationship, correct? And so is the case with many other service providers, non-financial use cases, be it SIM, providing a mobile number, or any other service which requires customer or a potential user to actually prove his credential. So eKYC is that second type of authentication where the data that is stored with Aadhaar for that Aadhaar holder can be pulled out, provided the user has provided an explicit consent to actually make his or her data available to the service provider. So you need, for that to happen, you need to be an authorized service provider with UIDAI. So we have got two types of, I'll come to the third slide after this. So we have got two types of user agencies. We call authentication user agency. They only need to do yes/no validation. They are not in the business of verifying the user credentials, so they don't need to know the customer. They just only need to validate the credentials being provided by the customer against what is already stored in the Aadhaar database. So we call it AUA. Then you have got sub AUAs who actually use the AUA's facility to send the request for validation to Aadhaar database. Then the second set of users are KUAs. We call it KYC user agency. So all the banks, the telecom service providers, a lot of other agencies like who would want the credentials to be validated, they form part of this set of KUAs. Okay, so right, and then we have this authentication service agencies. So this is the flow. On the right side, if you see, this is the flow. So all the requests from the user agencies like KUA and AUA are routed through the authentication service agency, which is actually only linked to Aadhaar system through very secure pipes, through secure network channels. It is not on public internet, it is through secure channels that they are linked to UIDAI for the security of Aadhaar system. And these AUAs and KUAs have a relation with the ASAs, and then ASAs actually route the request to the UIDAI. So coming to what exactly does the law say? So there are two broad categories of usage of Aadhaar. One is authentication. When we say authentication, that is completely online. You have a KUA, AUA, the request goes through ASA, reaches the Aadhaar system, Aadhaar responds, goes back to the user agency, and the transaction closes. The second is offline verification. None of the user agencies hit the UIDAI system. The user himself has the Aadhaar data either in e-Aadhaar, m-Aadhaar, the Aadhaar PVC card. There are various ways. So he may also generate a XML, we call it KYC, PDF, XML on his own from the portal or even through m-Aadhaar, and then present that KYC to any service provider. So that is an offline way of presenting or proving his or her credentials. So that is offline verification. So the law has got provisions for both these categories of authentication and verification in terms of usage of Aadhaar. So this slide is actually referring to the authentication, which is online use cases of Aadhaar to authenticate an individual holding an Aadhaar. So we have got broadly, have got 4 sections in the Act. Sections. So a lot of speakers before me have delved deep into those things, and we have a details session subsequent to this, at least on 2 parts of the Act, which is Section 7 and Section 44B2, which is very relevant to this workshop because all the government officials are here. So Section 7 is what we call the social welfare benefits and the services that have to be given to the scheme beneficiaries. So it has a rider attached to it. So first it has to be in the nature of a subsidy. The beneficiary has to be an individual beneficiary, and for kids who are less than age of 18, it is not mandatory. So that also has to be made clear to all the scheme owners. And lastly, even if you don't hold an Aadhaar, the benefit of the service under Section 7, which is of the nature of subsidy, social welfare, can still not be denied. That also is very clear from various notifications that Dvt Mission and UIDAI, Supreme Court judgments have laid out. So every effort has to make that service beneficiary or get an Aadhaar, enroll himself or herself for an Aadhaar, but till such time it is not there, an alternative means of proving the credential of the beneficiary has to be devised, has to be found out, but service still has to be delivered. So that is Section 7, which is the broadest section, which has got right now we have got close to 900 schemes across 10 state. All DBT schemes, we call these direct benefit transfer schemes. They are notified under Section 7. Then the second category, which is very relevant to this workshop, is the 44B2, which is voluntary. You need to have alternative means of proving a user's credentials available to the user. You can always, of course, Aadhaar is one of those. We call these as good governance schemes. So there were 2020 good governance rules that came out from Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, which lays out the process. So it can encompass any kind of good governance schemes. So since it is not a social welfare, it need not be. It could be social welfare. It may not be social welfare, it could plain be improving the efficiency of governance, efficiency of delivery. So it could encompass almost every scheme, I would say. But the rider is, it has to be voluntary. You cannot mandate use of Aadhaar. You need to, the resident must have other options to prove his credentials. Of course, we have seen, because of the ease of use of Aadhaar, a lot of people out of their own volition would use Aadhaar, would anyways use Aadhaar. So we right now, we have close to more than 90 proposals which have been approved, all the good governance proposals. So many more proposals are welcome from the state of Kerala, because that would only improve the ease of living, as we say, and also ease of doing business. The third is 44B1 and the fourth is 47, which have to be laid out by the parliament of the country and right now beyond the ambit of the state government. However, you might, since you are the users of income tax websites, you know PAN and Aadhaar linkage is mandatory. You might have seen even in the state of Kerala, a lot of e-Shram cards are being, you might have seen a lot of CSCs, Akshaya centers would have enrolled themselves as agents to enroll people for e-Shram cards. So why is Aadhaar mandatory? So section 4.7 mandates that, so Social Security Codes and the Income Tax Act have made it mandatory, and that has been validated by Supreme Court judgment also, at least in the case of PAN. For 44B1, where all the financial service providers, the telecom service providers, even the GST and the Customs Act, they fall under that ambit. Again, this derives its power from the laws made by the Parliament. So either the PMLA or the Telegraph Act, Customs Act or the GST Act. So, but the rider it is still voluntary. It is still voluntary. The Aadhaar usage cannot be mandated. You need to give a viable alternative means other than Aadhaar for people before rendering the service under this section of the Act. So all the financial institutions, all the 5 financial regulators, IRDA, RBI, PFRDA, and the SEBI for the capital market entities, they fall under this big bucket. So this is the scale that we have achieved. So, close to 7 crore transactions, authentication, these are online authentication transactions which we track, happen every day. Now coming to the offline verification. So these are the two, you see a QR code everywhere. You have a QR code in the e-Aadhaar, you have a QR code in PVC card, you have a QR code in your M-Aadhaar app also. Then you have a QR code scanner available in the Google Play Store, which is UIDAI's own QR code scanner. It is freely available. So you might have seen that people take Aadhaar, but they don't verify it. So that is, we are here in this workshop to promote and to educate people who anyways use Aadhaar, but they don't use the power of Aadhaar. Unlike driving license or let's say passport, where you can't verify if this is an authentic passport or a driving license, in case of Aadhaar, you can do that. Then why not use it? You have a freely available scanner. You have the other means is XML file, which can be shared by the user himself, which is also it can be digitally accessed through a public key of UIDAI, through browser-based mechanism that perhaps can be used by institutional users. But any individual or group of individual users, they can always download the UIDAI QR code scanner, and the QR code available in all such media. M-Aadhaar, it's a less than a 10-second job. You can verify it. Use the verification. Verification must be used. So that is the power of verification. Yeah. So this is what we have been able to achieve. This is not a surprise. It will not come as a surprise. We all are users of Aadhaar in some capacity. We are being asked for Aadhaar. We keep getting asked for Aadhaar. Maybe some of us may not know what it entails. That Aadhaar must be verified before it is given. It can be verified. Now, perhaps after this workshop, when we all go back, we can educate the people, the users, agencies who actually use our facility to actually start using the verification authentication. So almost every farmer under PM Kisan scheme, for instance, is now using Aadhaar. It falls under section 7. We all, perhaps, most of us, maybe not many of us, but some of us may be availing LPG subsidy. It is a DBT transfer. You have to have your Aadhaar linked, again under section 7. The subsidy directly reaches your bank account, linked to your gas account or whatever the supply account. Then PDS. PDS is the largest database which is using Aadhaar. So one nation, one ration card. You can keep moving around, especially in the time of pandemic, when people were like displaced from their home locations. They could actually use this one nation, one ration system because their quota was available, could be accessible. The family quota of ration could be accessible from wherever, from any part of the country. So one member of the family could, maybe like it's a 5 kg quota grain is for a family. One family member could actually get 2 kgs, a part of that ration from his or her village. The other member, who perhaps is working in a city, is a migrant labor who got stuck due to pandemic. He can access to, in the nearest PDS shop, he could go and avail the remaining ration for himself against his family quota. How is that made possible? Because of linkage of Aadhaar and that interoperability between the systems, the central PDS database linked to all state PDS databases through a common application which is linked to Aadhaar. So that is the power of Aadhaar, which is portable. It is authentic. It can be authenticated from anywhere, anytime, and in real time. Finance. So a lot of people in this house would be from financial service background. So out of the 140, 150 crore operative bank accounts in the country, these are the gross number of accounts. A person may have more than one bank account. Close to 120 crore of them are currently seeded with Aadhaar. It is not mandatory. People find it useful. DBT benefits, for DBT benefits under section 7, you need to have account linked with Aadhaar. Other than that, it is not mandatory, but still people have got their account seeded. Out of those, so we have got 133 crore Aadhaar now almost generated. Out of those, 127 crore are live Aadhaar. Almost everybody in this house, so 100% Aadhaar enrollment is for adults, almost. So almost everybody, each one of us would have an Aadhaar. 77 crore of those Aadhaar have uniquely linked their Aadhaar to a bank account, which makes their bank account ready to receive a DBT benefit if they apply for a DBT scheme. They just need to code the Aadhaar. Aadhaar has replaced the bank account. It has actually become a pseudo financial address. Once it is linked to your bank account, you don't need to remember your bank account. Of course, if you have multiple bank accounts, you need to be sure in sending which bank account must be receiving the benefit. Of course, you have to give an explicit consent for that. So DBT savings, even the Chief Secretary Sir and also mentioned that huge savings, this is a given. Deduplication ensures that the ghost beneficiaries, the redundant, the superfluous are out of the system. You need to be there to receive, you need to be alive to receive the benefits. So of course, savings would be there. Now coming to the recent initiatives. So some of these initiatives may not be very relevant currently to the state of Kerala, because at least 2 of these initiatives are more relevant to the central government schemes. But anyhow, I'm presenting first 2 and then I'll come to the specific initiatives which could be more relevant to the state of Kerala. So this is one of the notifications that we came out where so central government, it allows central government departments to share Aadhaar data among themselves, because central government is is defined as a single government entity. So we clarified that. Second is, so any authentication, the law says any authentication verification must be preceded by the user consent. If I am not consenting to use my Aadhaar to avail a service, either I will not be given a service if it is mandatory for Aadhaar to be linked, or if it is not mandatory, the service provider must give me an alternative to Aadhaar if it is not mandatory. But in either of these cases, for authentication or even offline verification to even start, I must be given a form or in either form, electronic form, physical form, which I sign either electronically or physically, give my consent that yes, for this purpose, my Aadhaar may be used. Okay, so the second notification says, because now every scheme will have to go to the user to get the consent. Instead, for prospective schemes, for schemes which come in future, a scheme, at least this is for the central government, at least for central government, if the central government agency goes to the user to enroll that user or register the user for a central government scheme which uses Aadhaar, this is for section 7 schemes specifically, that they may have a broad-based consent. Since they are a single entity, they may have a broad-based consent taken from the user that any other related scheme which deals with any benefit, social welfare benefit, I am ready to give my consent for that also. So we came up with a clarification and a template how exactly that could be done. So the third, which is more relevant to the states, is sharing of masked Aadhaar between center and state, between states, within states. So there is a restriction on publishing Aadhaar, but the masked Aadhaar, which is like only the last 4 digits are visible, we have clarified through this notification that along with this, the demographic data can be shared among the government agencies alone. So you need to be careful. This clarification is not given for the private agencies for now. Then most of you, since you are user agencies, departments, might be aware of the slashing of authentication rates, the fees that UIDAI was charging. From 20 rupees for eKYC, we have brought it down to rupees 3. For telecom companies, it is only 1, all inclusive of taxes. Offline verification is completely free. It has always been free. So this is an initiative to promote the usage of Aadhaar. And secondly, so the Act provides for offline verification, as I already mentioned. It also provides for voluntary users of Aadhaar. So I can restrict a user to use, a resident to use his or her Aadhaar if a service is provided against that Aadhaar. Just to make it bring more clarity to it, amendments have been brought out in the regulations, the authentication and verification regulations, which makes it clear. So this is voluntary usage of Aadhaar, where 16B, 16C, you may not get into the clause names, but the essence of the amendments is that a resident is free to use his or Aadhaar. However, the agency which takes that Aadhaar has been the rights and the responsibilities of that agency have been clarified for the benefit of all the user agencies. Okay, so for instance, an offline verification seeking entity, we call OVAC, which is not an AUA or KUA, but does offline verification, must verify the Aadhaar and not simply take a copy of Aadhaar and not verify it. The use of Aadhaar the power of Aadhaar is verifying it. See, it is unlike any other ID which was before Aadhaar. So we should not use Aadhaar just like any other ID, like a driving license which cannot be verified like any other ID. Perhaps PAN can be verified, but through online systems. This offline verification should be used. So these have been clarified in those amendments. And of course, voluntary use has been, you can reiterate it in those amendments. So this is, So we have a session on ADB. Sir from KSITM also mentioned about the ADB initiative in the state of Kerala, where NIC has made a central vault. And I think ADB as a service, instead of every agency creating its own data vault, a centralized data vault given as a service to all the agencies is already, NIC has already built for the state of Kerala. However, what we are actually exploring at the headquarters level is because ADB maybe for governments may not be that big a cost, but for smaller agencies, private agencies, this is still a cost. It is a cost, a maintenance, and the infrastructure cost is involved. So we are exploring developing or exploring alternatives to ADV as it exists. So ADV has to be backed by backed by a hardware security module. Again, technical. We have a session on that. People who are interested will appreciate it better. But this is a cost. So, in sense, this is a cost. We are trying to find alternatives to it, which does not compromise the security aspects, because the cost is because security is the primacy of security. The confidentiality is key to whatever we do. Without compromising those aspects of security, we are trying to explore the alternatives. The biggest initiative that we see, apart from the price reduction, the notifications, is the introduction of face authentication, which came as a big, you could say, big help during pandemic, especially for people. If you have people, you might know, a lot of parents of people sitting here would be pensioners, of government pensioners. So getting a life certificate every year, you had to be physically present with the pensioner agency. That can be done away with. It has been done away with through use of face authentication. A simple mobile-based application downloadable from Play Store is available by UIDAI. Of course, the agency has to be authorized to use face authentication. So Jeevan Praman is a big user of face authentication. A lot of state of Karnataka farmer registration is also happening to face authentication. And of course, NHA is also in the process of, National Health Authority is also in the process of using it. For biometric attendance also, it is being explored. And of course, a lot of banks, people are there from banks, a lot of banks are in the process of, and very soon they'll be onboarding this. They have got their solutions tested, most of the banks have. So either in assisted mode or unassisted. Unassisted would mean a user does everything on his own, on his phone. Assisted could be, you could maybe assist, either if you have seen video KYC, so video KYC could, in the matching part of it could be done by UIDAI, face auth. So I'll not get into face auth. We have a session on this. Face auth is more secure, it is contactless. We have seen the failure rates are much lower than fingerprints. Of course, you need to have your photo updated. So it's high time all of us get our photos updated, because this is the future. Why exactly face auth becomes so powerful? So this is a concern of most of the user agencies, the fingerprint authentication failure rates. But let me tell you, the fingerprint authentication rates may seem high at first sight. However, it could be for various reasons. Improper placement of finger, scratch on the scanner, maybe improper some wet scanner, something. However, if you keep trying multiple attempts, it is more than 90% success rate. Identified, these are the main reasons why exactly this is failing, either through device related reasons or improper training of the operators who don't know how to have the finger placed, or it could be a very small percentage, of course, because there are 10% still failures which still don't get verified, of those old people whose fingerprints have worn out, or of those people who do hard labor, farmers, construction laborers whose fingerprints have worn out. So we suggest you don't use all fingers. Identify your best finger, which is the best finger. We have got all 10 fingers. So give your fingerprint which is best, in the best condition, to minimize the authentication failure rates. Secondly, for people who are elderly, either they identify the best finger. If that is still not possible, there are, of course, if they are beneficial of Section 7 schemes, we will find alternative means. And of course, face auth has come to the rescue of many of those elderly people. So this is exactly coming out from what exactly we planned. So training the operators. One of the use cases that we are exploring is you have I don't know how many of you use DigiLocker, but many of us do use that. DigiLocker has got all your, most of the major documents from education, driving license, which like the issuing authorities have your documents stored in your DigiLocker, which is linked to your Aadhaar. So once your Aadhaar, you could actually update the address in those documents using your Aadhaar address. So we are exploring, so driving license would be the first use case which will come into play being very soon. So when you update your Aadhaar, you go to DigiLocker, your address in your driving license. So this option is being given. So you can update the address in the documents which are there in the DigiLocker using the address which is already present in your Aadhaar. So you don't need to go to each agency separately to get your address updated. Finally, some of the example use cases from the states other than Kerala. Kerala is definitely doing a great job. A lot of use cases are in the pipeline. So some of these which are live use cases. So these are like pensioners for farmer registration, the land record registration, even the video conferencing between the prisoner and the relatives. So linking of Aadhaar. Of course, these are not all Section 7. So you bear this in mind. They use Aadhaar. Some of them may be under Section 7, provided they are of the nature of subsidy and such things. Of course, but they can always fall under the category 4.4b2 for voluntary use of Aadhaar. Then you have in Andhra Pradesh, you have crop booking. So procurement of crop can be linked to Aadhaar. They have linked it. Then, of course, for giving disaster climate related benefits, the disaster related benefits, Section 7 scheme. I discussed that land record that is there in Gujarat also. Fruits, it's a farmer registration. They use not just fingerprint authentication, they use face auth also. They are authorized to use face auth also. And of course these two, because I think KSITN sir also discussed about the unified beneficiary registry that state of Kerala is planning to have this. So in the state of Karnataka and Haryana, we already have two such family registries. The unifying, you could say the common element is Aadhaar, which unifies all these databases. So that's all from my side. I think Tech Center has got a small presentation on the face authentication. Thank you.
The states as well as Kerala. Now I request the next presentation will be on virtual ID and face authentication. Already sir has covered this online and offline authentication to a greater extent. Now this particular session will be virtual ID and face authentication will be from through VC from Tech Center Bangalore. Yes.
In part, so first we will cover overview, and second is what is a sample AUA. Third point is the Face ID app, which is a headless app, and what is a headless app and how integration of capture intent for Face ID app, that will cover in point number 4. And after that we will cover integration of stateless intent, that is offline match, that we think already covered, that how we integrate our offline KYC with this ID APK. And there is one link that will help developers to integrate the Face ID from their AUM. First, then overview, that is what is a Face ID app. So Face ID Android app is a headless app which is released by the UIDAI to enable AUA application to perform face authentication using Android intents. Okay, so there are two types of authentication that we can do by using the Face ID application. First is stateless match, and second is online capture with the online authentication. Okay, so in online authentication we are using the internet. Okay, there we will invoke some API of UIDAI. Okay, that requires some internet connection. But for stateless match, we are using offline or online KYC that can help us to face match by using the Face ID application. So now, what is a sample AUA? So, and who is AUA? That I think already been covered. So I just want to highlight who is AUA. AUA is a authentication user agency. That can be any government, public, private, legal agency registered in India that use Aadhaar authentication services. Okay. Currently, multiple AUA has integrated the Face ID application, and some of the areas like banks and financial institutions and government public department that are integrating the Face ID application. So the question is, what is a sample AUF or a face or demo app? So we have created one sample AUF. This is like a demo app. Okay, that will help AUA to understand how the AUA application will work and will integrate with the Face ID application. So there is one demo app that will we can use to check how the Face ID application end-to-end flow is working. And we are also sharing the sample code to the AUA. Okay, that will help the AUA to develop their AUA app, their own design, and how they can integrate with Face ID app. This will help to AUA. And we can also test the sample AUA by using the staging UID. If we have a staging UID, that is Aadhaar UID, that we can test the overall flow end to end. If we have a staging UID. Now, in the recent release, we have also released our sample UID for pre-prod and prod environment that can be used or tested from sample UID end-to-end testing for Face ID app. These are the some screenshots if you can see on the screen. The screenshot, this is related to Face ID demo app. Now we have renamed it Face ID demo app. So if you see, we are providing, these are the four intent or four functionality currently to our AUA. The main functionality is online authentication and stateless match. And these are the last three functionality related to performance or to debug the issue if they are phishing. So basically, the second screenshot shows the online authentication. Starting the online authentication, user required to enter transaction ID that will automatically generate, and user need to enter the UID. Based on the UID, our Face ID app will open. And there is another functionality that is stateless match, that is offline match. If we are using the Face ID application in rural area where network problem is coming, if we have an offline or online KYC, that we can upload our offline or online KYC through stateless match, and we can invoke the Face ID app, and the face authentication can be completed through both the intent, that is online authentication and stateless match. These are the basic idea of sample UA of Face app demo app. So now, what is the headless Face ID app? Moving to next part. So basically, headless app is an app which depends on other AUA apps for their invocation. It doesn't start on their own. The headless app acts like a SDK. To invoke headless app, it needs intent call from other AUA apps. This is some technical term, that there is some intent, or we can say there is some value, constant value that we invoke from AUA app. So headless app, that is, the icon will not show on the Android phone. That will install in user device, but it will not show on the desktop, on the dashboard. Okay, so that will be invoked, that will, the Face ID app will open when AUA app send a request. So this is a Face ID app that we created for face authentication. So how we integrate the Face ID app APK along with the sample UID app, that can be done through that I told you that through the intent. Face ID app receive intent call from AUA to capture live person image and give response as a PIT data, which in turn used for eKYC API call in AUA app. So basically, Face ID app receive one intent from AUA app, and along with some requests. Based on this, we open the camera and do some validation in background, and after successful validation, we are capturing the live image. User should be live. We are checking the liveness of the user. If he is live, we are capturing the image. Based on some validation that whether our device should not be compromised, and security validation we are doing there. So all the validation is successful, then we are capturing the live image of user. After capturing the live image, we are generating one PID data, that is XML format, that we are returning back to the AUA. And then AUA will call the other eKYC service to do the face match. If face match is successful, then we are sending back into the AUA. Then AUA will get the other related data, sample data, other related validate data for that particular user. So these are some screenshots that related to capture intent. This is the online authentication. Okay, so once the Face ID application receives the intent or along with the same data from AUA, then a guidance screen will appear. Okay, if you see on my screen, this is the guidance screen. This is guiding the user how the face should be in the front of camera. That should be face to face on the camera. The camera can be front end camera or back end camera. It depends on the AUA what camera they want to use. Okay, this is a guidance screen. This screen can be skipped or can be processed. Okay, we click on process button, the camera will open. This is a front camera that is open, and we are doing some validation in background. Okay, like liveness of user, whether user is live or not, whether somebody is not using the video of that user. So we are doing the same lot of check and security validation. After successful, all the successful validation, we are capturing the image of live user. That if you see in the envelope, the image capture successfully message is coming. After that, we are generating one PID data with successful image capture, and then we are sending it back to the AUA. AUA will use this data to face match with the authentication chapter. Okay, so now this is the online authentication that can be done through our intent call from AUA to Face ID. And second one is what is the offline match? Stateless match is the offline match that can be done using the offline eKYC or the online eKYC. Like we can download the offline KYC through our UIDAI portal for that particular user. User can download, any user can download from this site. Other paper offline KYC. If we have an offline eKYC, then this KYC should be available in mobile phone. That is on AUA part. Okay. So what is the process of it? Face ID handles APK receive intent call from AUA to capture live person image, and match against the provided UIDAI eKYC example. In online authentication, what we are doing, we are invoking matching the face match using the API eKYC call from AUA. Okay, and we are sending back to the PID data, one XML format to the AUA. Now, in case of stateless match or offline match, what we are doing here, we are doing the face match by using the offline eKYC or online eKYC. Okay, so no API call, no internet required for offline match intent or offline eKYC or stateless match intent. So everything will be offline. So we just require, these are some screenshots. We just only require to upload offline eKYC from AUA app, and we need to invoke Face ID app through one intent that we are providing. Okay, that Face ID app will open, and this everything will be repeat, like all the security validation will be done, and after successful security validation and check, we are capturing the live image. After capturing the live image, we will not send now PID data to the AUA. We will do all the face match related things on a user device only. We are not storing any data. We are just doing the face match offline, and we are sending it back to user like face match process successfully. And we are directly invoking the app edu app. So that can be done through offline match intent or stateless match intent. So how we can do the Face ID integration? That can be done. There There is one link that we already specify here. Document link to start Face ID integration. So we are providing one document, link document, that is, this will help AUA to integrate Face ID application. Here multiple things, multiple require link we have specified, like the official UIDAI website and how we can download the offline eKYC. Okay, point number 2. And point number 3, we are giving one technical API specification document that will help development team to write their own code for AUAF, now to integrate the Face ID from AUAF. That we are providing, and as well as we are providing handler EPK URL. So how we want to test how application exactly work in staging environment, to be providing staging pre-prod and prod link. Staging pre-prod link, that is APK is already uploaded and Google Drive, but for prod we have already uploaded this APK to our Google Play Store. Okay, we are also providing this sample APK. So with the help of this sample demo APK, we can invoke the Face ID APK. We can test the end-to-end flow by using this sample AUAF. Here we are also providing the sample AUAF source code that will help AUA to write their sample AUAF APK, and they can invoke these two intent, capture intent and offline intent. They can invoke our Face ID app. So there is technical document that we are providing. This will help totally the development team to invoke the Face ID app. So we are also providing technical support for a development if they face any issue, and also providing the license key and eKYC related operation support from our side. So these are the Face ID authentication. If anybody has any question, so this is done from my side. Thank you all.
Clarifications or wanted to clarify any doubts, they are welcome. And we have got a mic this in session. We can just any doubt on the topics so far covered. Please feel free to be more interactive. Thank you.
It can be used in lieu of Aadhaar number whenever authentication or eKYC services are to be performed. So authentication may be performed using BID in the manner similar to using the Aadhaar number. It is not possible to derive Aadhaar number from BID as well. So, I mean, to maintain the confidentiality of the Aadhaar number, any resident, they can generate their BID and they can use their BID instead of Aadhaar numbers. So, I mean, any AUA and anybody can't derive your Aadhaar number from the BID. So, on the Aadhaar card, I mean, this is how we can see the BID. If you have generated the BID, it will display. It will be displayed like this. So, Aadhaar number holder can generate or retrieve BID. It is an alternate 16-digit number to UID. UID is basically 12-digit number, and this BID is 16-digit number. So, it will help the residents to protect their Aadhaar number. There will be only one active and valid VID for Aadhaar number at any given time. What happens actually, you can regenerate your VID, and the minimum validity is, if you have generated it for the one time, the minimum validity is 24 hours, and then after 24 hours you can regenerate your VID, and to maintain the confidentiality, if you think that it is revealed to somebody, then you can regenerate the VID and you can use the new VID. So it will be, and if you don't want to regenerate, then the maximum validity is infinite. Okay, and after the minimum validity period on Aadhaar number holders request regeneration, a new VID will be generated and previous VID will be deactivated. So anytime, whenever any request comes, so a new VID is generated and the earlier one is deactivated. In case of residents opts for retrieval, the last active VID will be sent to the Aadhaar number holder, their mobile numbers. And why do we need VID? It is concern about the safety of residents' Aadhaar number and their personal information, and prevention from the data leakage. So agencies cannot retrieve that. I have earlier told that agencies also cannot retrieve the Aadhaar number of the applicant if WID is used for authentication. Aadhaar details cannot be accessed by the agencies in any manner, keeping the Aadhaar number and other details secured. So Aadhaar holders can generate the WID and use it to authenticate for the services like authentication. And once the authentication is complete, the applicant can regenerate his virtual ID so that the details with the agency, if saved, are rendered useless. I mean, they can't use it and they can't use it for any further things. So how can we generate a WID? UIDAI have provided various options to generate the WID. First one is the resident portal, that is the UIDAI website. From there you can generate the WID. Second is the Aadhaar, the mobile application. And third one is the inbound SMS service for registered mobile number. That there are certain keywords using which we can generate Aadhaar WID. This is JVID for generating the WID and RVID is for retrieving WID. This is how the resident portal looks. In My Aadhaar, there is one dashboard where you can generate the WID and retrieve the WID. You can enter your Aadhaar number and the captcha given here, and you click on the send OTP. The OTP will come to the registered Aadhaar number and that the registered mobile number. And when you enter this OTP, your WID is generated or retrieved, and it will be sent to your Aadhaar registered mobile number. And this message will come on the resident portal, like on the UIDAI website. Then second option was through the Aadhaar. This is the application screen. You can see where you can enter the Aadhaar number and you can generate the WID. And similarly, it will send this WID to the registered mobile number. Then this is the mobile. You can send RWID, retrieve WID, to the registered to the number 1947 through your registered mobile number. And it will be sent, the RWID will be retrieved WID. If you have already generated the WID, then it will be sent to your registered mobile number. These are certain keywords for using 1947 service. This is RWID is for the retrieving of WID. GWID is generating a new WID. Get OTP, you can send get OTP to your to 1947. You will get a new OTP for using other services. Then unlock UID. You can lock UID, you can unlock UID. This is enable biolog, disable biolog. Lock UID means you can lock your UID and you can use WID for the authentication services. And enable biolog and disable biolog means you can only use your WID or Aadhaar number and your biometrics will be locked. And these are some keywords like how do we use the service. It's 1947 service. So these are the the format of the message that to be sent to the 1947 number. So these you can see the examples for GWID, RWID, and for locking and unlocking UID. And these are the enable and disable biolog using your WID. Then there is one API, how the WID is generated. There is one application which is used to generate the WIDs. So there is one API which is used to generate a new 16-digit virtual identification number. So this is a REST API that will generate the WID. So first it will gather the information where we have to, from where we get the UID. And secondly, from these channels, these details are sent to the Auth API for resident authentication. Once the resident is found to be existing in our database, then the WID will be generated. And WID will be generated using one algorithm that is similar to the UID generation. The UID is generated as a 12-digit number, and similarly, the VID will be generated as a 16-digit number. So this is all about WID from our side. Thank you for giving us time to present.
Appropriate government may, by notification in the official gazette, declare any computer resource which directly or indirectly affects the facility of critical infrastructure to protected system And in accordance to that, Government of India by Gazette notification has declared UIDAI CIDR facilities as critical protected infrastructure. So this is an infrastructure which can incapacitate this incapacitation will have a debilitating effect on national security, economy. As we know that most of the government schemes are now getting linked with the Aadhaar. So anything which goes against this is having that effect. That's why it has been declared a protected system. When we say Aadhaar security, actually this has been implemented with design as a principle itself while implementation. And if we go inside that, there is a security by design. When we say security by design, then at all the time, whether data is at the rest or in motion, at rest means when it is being stored, or when it is movement, in movement means we are communicating, AUAs are communicating with the CIDR. At every point it is encrypted. So at no point of time the data is available in plain text for any mischief. So it's fully secured encrypted communication and encrypted storage. Along with that, there is a database sharding, and when we say database sharding means we have our biometrics stored in the CIDR. So we have our fingerprints, we have iris data. So data is stored in such a way that my one finger data may reside in one database and another finger data may reside in another database and my iris data may reside in another database. So at no point of time single database has complete set of my records. So even if something happens, my data is safe and secure. Along with that, there is a network segmentation. There are different networks, network for internal communication, network for public access, network for partner access. So that's how there is total network segmentation which does not allow any security breach. We have MPLS connectivity, that's multi-point level switching kind of connectivity, which is not a plain internet, with our partners. When we say our partners, we mean to sorry, we mean to say AUAs, KUAs, etc. Then when we talk about business continuity, in case of any quake, earthquake, or any physical, any natural disaster, the business continuity should not be affected. So for that, we have data center redundancy, we have power supply redundancy, and we have redundancy in terms of internet connectivity, so that at no point of time there is any service disruption. For security of the data, we have highest level of physical security at perimeter level, so that no unauthorized access to the data centers is possible under any circumstance. Then there is another privacy by design. So under this digital ID is a purpose agnostic. When we say purpose agnostic, we mean to say that this digital ID has been generated and it is stored. Now, different services are being offered where this digital ID is being used. So the agencies which are offering the service with the consent of the user can use this Aadhaar digital ID service. We are not concerned whether it is being used in the banking or it is used in any DBTL or kind of this subsidy service facilities. So it can be used anywhere provided the security architecture and the Aadhaar Act is being followed. Along with that, we are storing minimalistic personal data, which is essentially required for this purpose. We don't have any UI database linkage with any other database. It's totally separate database. And there's a policy of non-merging of silos. That means Aadhaar is not as such required to be presented to anybody. We can have VID. So that is, or if it is being stored, there is a reference ID. So that is the Aadhaar tokenization. So Aadhaar as such need not be made available either in person or while the service is being used technically. Then privacy by policy. So when we say that federated database, it is the same thing, that Aadhaar database is not linked with any other database. we have registered devices services where any device from the market cannot be used for this purpose. These are the devices which are registered with UIDAI, certified by certifying agency, and when these devices are onboarded in the ecosystem, only then these devices can be used. So any device cannot be used. Then there is a HSM, that is hardware security module, led Aadhaar data vault. So this HSM, hardware security module, is used for storing the keys being used for encryption, and this is for secure storage of the keys and their key rotation, which is being used for Aadhaar data vault, which you already heard Aadhaar data vault multiple times in previous presentations, and we will also cover it later on. Then there is obfuscation of UID by choice. That means if a resident does not want to present his Aadhaar number, he can use virtual ID and he need not present his Aadhaar number to anybody. When we say Aadhaar masking for a privacy, that means at no point or at no place Aadhaar number is presented as it is. It is a masked Aadhaar number which is being displayed while it is essentially required to be displayed. Then there are secure QR codes. You can see them on Aadhaar cards. So these secure QR codes contain the information. Again, if somebody scans that QR code, they will find only masked Aadhaar, they will not find the full Aadhaar. Then if we see the security layers of defense which have been implemented for the security of complete CIDR and UIDAI ecosystem, at the heart, at the center, that is UIDAI CIDR. When we say CIDR, that is Centralized Identities Data Repository, where the details, the biometrics are being stored. So there are apps and there are database. This is being protected by multi-layered security. There is an encryption of the complete data using HSM. There is database activity monitoring continuously done. There is data loss prevention. There is endpoint detection and response. There are ISP links. On ISP link, there is DDoS, that is distributed denial of service attack protection. There are host intrusion prevention systems. There are network intrusion prevention systems. There are firewalls at the perimeter level. There are web application firewalls. And on the one side, there is a partner ecosystem, which also need to be secured. So partner ecosystem is linked with secure MPLS link, which is not an internet link, but a MPLS link. At the partner ecosystem, which are AUA, KUAs, etc., there is a firewall at the perimeter level. There is antivirus, encryption being used, and there are security audits being conducted by independent auditors as well as by GRCP. There are data vaults. There is social media watch list. There are dark web analysis, and at the other side, it is headquarter, tech center, and regional offices which are hosting this UIDAI web and mobile apps. These are also connected to CIDR with secure links. At these places, there is web gateway, anti-distributed denial of service firewalls, web application firewalls, data loss prevention system, endpoint detection and response. So you can see that the complete ecosystem has been secured with multi-layered security. But after this security has been implemented, there are other things also required for business continuity or to deal with any crisis or any fraud. So there is a crisis management plan, there is a disaster recovery plan, there is a business continuity plan, there is an incident response, and there are forensic investigations. Over and above, there is security operation controls and network operation controls, which are being monitored through Security Operations Center and Network Operations Center, call it SOC and NOC. Then there are external security feeds being received. These are from NIC, NCIIPC, that is National Critical Infrastructure Protection Center, and NCCC, that is National Cyber Coordination Center. As you can see that these are all the layers of security, and not only the security, this is how over and above we are monitoring and maintaining the security. So, if we go on other layers, there is governance risk compliance, there is security, cyber security assessments, reviews and audits. This is a continuous process going on throughout the year. Under that, we are doing vulnerability assessment and penetration testing assessment. We are doing application security reviews. There is secure source code reviews, network security audits, security and privacy compliance audits, phishing simulation, cyber risk assessments. So this is a continuous ongoing process. We also have information security governance that is led by Security Steering Committee comprising of CEO, UIDAI, DDGIS and ADGIS. So this is how the complete UIDAI ecosystem is getting secured by multi-layered security, continuous watch on all the security aspects so that the data is secured in all the fashions, all the manners. As part of our endeavor to achieve and also showcase the information security, we are certified for ISO 27001-2013. We are the first organization to be certified for privacy, that is ISO 27701. We have next generation SOC, Security Operations Center, which has capability of security orchestration automation and response, which is called it SOAR, and user and entity behavior analytics, that is called UBA. We also analyze the packets being captured. There is a forensic investigation capability available in UIDAI ecosystem. We have forensic lab implemented in line with ISO 17025 standard. We are in process of getting NABL certification and accreditation for Section 79A of the IT Act. We are using FIPS 140-2 standard using 2048 encryption standard, or rather we should say that FIPS 142 compliant 2048 bit encryption to secure CIDR data, that is storing core biometrics and personal information of the residents. There is enhanced cyber incident detection and response capability being achieved through threat intel feeds being received from NCIIPC, NCCC and CERTIN. These threat intel feeds, after getting received at our end, are being handled in our all security devices so that no loophole is at any point of time available. We have established assessment capability to identify and report external Aadhaar data leakage, unauthorized websites, mobile apps providing fake Aadhaar related services to residents of India. In case we find that some fake website is being hosted, which is claiming to be UIDAI, but actually not. So that is under continuous monitoring, that is being reported to law enforcement agencies, and those sites are getting down. Then we have information security governance structure here. So on top of that, that is managed service infra provider. The role of this MSIP is to deal with security operations, system patchings, to search for new security products, implement them, upgrade them to ensure the complete security of the system. In between, there is an IS division which is responsible for the complete security governance of whole UIDAI ecosystem. So management and oversight, security and risk compliance, and evaluation of security initiatives and programs, all these things are being done by IS division. Over and above, as an independent auditor, independent assurance, we have governance, risk compliance service provider. They are doing risk assessment of UIDAI ecosystem, process and technology. They are doing security reviews and audits and submitting their recommendations. They are also doing privacy, fraud and forensic analysis, that is their security capabilities. So this complete set comprises of information security governance. There are two aspects to the security assessment. One is that IS aspect related to UIDAI, and other is IS aspect related to the outreach, means the partners. So under UIDAI, the security of CIDR, the security of networks, security of IT assets other than CIDR, this all fall under the IS aspect related to UIDAI. When we say IS aspects related to outreach, that is enrollment agencies and registrars. Authentication related data, that is authentication agencies, user agencies, AUAs and KUAs. Agencies storing Aadhaar numbers. Again, when we say agencies storing Aadhaar number, we mean to say that that is being done in Aadhaar data vaults, completely secure, using HSLs. Then other agencies like print service providers, which are providing printed Aadhaars and the PVC cards to the residents. So when we say Aadhaar data security by service agencies, there are legal provisions and circulars which are already in place. There is Aadhaar Act 2016. There are Aadhaar regulations like authentication regulations, data security regulations, sharing of information regulation. There is UIDAI information security policy and third-party information security policy also. There are security requirements included in AUA contracts. There is sharing, we are sharing regular circulars and advisories and guidelines with all the partners. When we say security of the registered devices and fraud analytics, as we have discussed earlier, all the registered devices are certified by certifying agency, that is STQC. Only certified devices are getting onboarded in UID ecosystem. These devices used for capturing the biometric data, and such biometric at the point of capturing itself are getting encrypted, and only encrypted data moves on the network. There are fraud analytics to detect any unauthorized or fraudulent use of data, and we have already issued circular to all the agencies having data vault to use HSM, where Aadhaar records need to be stored. Again, these HSMs are being used for key storage and key rotation, which keys are being used for data encryption. Then there are periodic audits and workshops, like the one workshop today we are having. There are audits being conducted for AUAs, KUAs and ASAs. This is a regular process. Whenever any AUA or KUA is getting onboarded, first they are getting audited by certain empaneled auditors, followed by the report is being assessed by IS division, and only after clearance from IS division, these AUAs are getting onboarded in UIDAI ecosystem. UIDAI has been conducting workshops and trainings for various authentication ecosystem partners, and we are also advising them on Aadhaar compliances. So when we say Aadhaar data vault, what is that? So Aadhaar data vault is a centralized storage for all the Aadhaar numbers collected by AUAs, KUAs, that is KYC user agencies or authentication user agencies, or any other agency for a specific purpose under Aadhaar Act and regulations. So these collected data from the resident. So this is first of all collected with the consent of the resident, and these are stored in a very secured manner, encrypted, and using a key which is being stored in HSM, that is highly secure. This secure system inside the respective agencies infrastructure accessible only on need to know basis. It is not available to anybody or everybody. The 12-digit Aadhaar number must be stored in encrypted format, and keys for encryption have to be stored in HSM. That is the policy and it's being followed. The implementation of Aadhaar data vault need to be decided by the respective agency, which HSM they need to use, that is also their prerogative, but they will have to comply with the UIDAI parameters or guidelines. So the implementation should meet the objective, means the security is the paramount thing that need to be assured or ensured while implementing Aadhaar data vault using the HSM. So what is the purpose of Aadhaar data vault? That is reducing the footprint of Aadhaar number, cease the usage of Aadhaar number as domain specific identifier, and prevent misuse of Aadhaar number, thus ensuring security and privacy. So when the data is being stored, the Aadhaar number is being stored in the Aadhaar data vault, always a reference key is getting generated. So Aadhaar data vault consists of reference key to represent the respective Aadhaar number in the internal ecosystem of the agency. So this is the reference key which is being accessed and used for different purposes, not the Aadhaar number as such. Then corresponding reference keys must be generated for all Aadhaar numbers stored in the Aadhaar data vault. Mapping of reference keys and Aadhaar number must be maintained in the Aadhaar data vault, and Aadhaar number must be completely replaced with reference key in the AUA QA ecosystem. So how this is getting generated? Generation of reference keys. AUA QA may choose any method for generation of reference key. The chosen reference key generation method is to ensure that the recovery of the original Aadhaar number must not be computationally feasible. Knowing only the reference key number or number of reference keys, multiple reference keys, it should not be possible. It should not be reversible. Means by knowing the reverse keys, it should not be possible to compute or by any means you can come back to the Aadhaar number. You can reduce the Aadhaar number. What is the Aadhaar number? So UUID, that is universally unique identifier, represented by a hex string that is being used for creating such reference keys, so that such reference key Aadhaar number can neither be guessed nor reverse engineered. So this is how it looks like. There's the Aadhaar number you can see on the right side, and there's a reference key. So this reference key is such that it cannot be used to reverse engineer the Aadhaar number. So and the encryption algorithm is RSA 2048 for public key encryption and AES 256 for symmetric encryption. There is an HSM implementation for storage of eKYC information. This must be stored in the data vault in encrypted format. Then Aadhaar data vault must be at such a place which is isolated from any untrusted or unauthorized access. So access control must be there. So this is how data is being stored in Aadhaar data vault, using where the Aadhaar number is mapped with reference key, and only reference key is being used for different purposes. So thank you very much from my side.